The health crisis has compelled many Filipinos to rethink their life goals and priorities. Some are contemplating about changing jobs, shifting careers, or starting their own business. But what are the pros and cons of these decisions amid the pandemic? Let's get some insights from motivational and business speaker Jonathan Yabut. Good evening to you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Mai.
Okay, 5 days into the new year and it's already challenging for many of us. How do you think can we find career fulfillment at a time like this?
So psychological research, there's a lot that's been published about this. Whenever you feel anxiety or stress, one way to cope with that stress is to channel your energy into something that you can learn something new. So for example, if you notice in 2020 when the pandemic happened, a lot of us resorted into gardening, remodeling our homes, trying to learn a new skill like painting or music. This isn't any different to your career as well. So let's say, for example, if you happen to be a Generation X or Generation Y who's not into social media, but now is the time to do that because everything is all about digital. Channel that anxiety and energy into learning something new because every time you feel you've accomplished something, that stress can be relieved. So that's one tactic that you can cover.
Yes, get yourself busy, right? And for
That's
those planning to make a big career move this year, is this actually a good time to quit and change jobs?
Practically speaking, January isn't really the best time because you're just about 2 to 3 months away from getting your 13th month pay. So if you're working for a private company, usually they release the 13-month pay on that time. So you might wait for a bit because that extra month pay is important in today's challenging times. I'm also going to say that January usually isn't the time when a lot of HR recruiters are filling up vacancies. So timing is the key here. When you look at the data, the best time to leave is usually halfway through the month, halfway through the year, or let's say, for example, November or October, just before the Christmas happens and you have more ample time to leave and have some allowances. Of course, I'm also going to make a disclaimer here. Mental health, which has been an issue for people of wanting to leave their job, is always a good merit if you want to leave. So just because you think that there are other reasons to stay, always prioritize your mental wellness and your happiness because that's the reason why we live in the first place.
All right. Well, okay, so maybe they can just wait and see for the month of January up to March. But okay, what are manageable steps at least that they can take to pivot?
I think the first one, and this is, I think, very typical for many Filipinos, whenever we have an issue at work, whenever it's with our boss, our colleagues, we tend to apply the silent treatment, thinking that things will just manage on their own. But most of the time, it needs one-on-one confrontation, and it needs a lot of courage. I do admit that. But that confrontation is important for you to be able to say to your manager, here's the reason why I'm struggling. It's extra workload, it's time management. It could be a pay increase, for example. If you don't vocalize these things, things will not sort out on their own. So try to manage on that part. The second I'd like to raise is social interaction. So I'm expecting that a lockdown might happen again, given the numbers have been rising. So one way to manage the anxiety at work is to get out of your typical network. Usually we only look at our workmates and our relatives as our first line of network. Expand beyond that. This is the best time to utilize social media, for example, LinkedIn, Facebook, Viber, as much as you can. Try to look for people who share the same hobbies and passion with you. And even if you don't get to see them face to face, use them as an opportunity to, again, channel that energy every time you feel that there's lack of interaction because you can't go to work and you can't meet other people.
Let's look at the other side now. How about for businesses and employers? How do you think can they strike a balance between the needs of the company and their employees?
So one of my biggest advocacies is communication between employees and their employers. Most of the time, the reason why employees leave their companies is because of uncertainty. And most of the time, this uncertainty happens is because they have this mindset that, oh, I'm going to lose my job in the next few months. I don't think that I'll get promoted. I don't think that I will get this project that I want. And that's because they don't have an opportunity to speak up. In the time of COVID-19, when we're all confined in our homes, it's hard for us to nudge our managers. You can't talk to them anymore in their cubicles. You can't see them at the pantry. You have to even set up a phone call or a meeting just to do that. So my recommendation to a lot of managers and business owners, be the one to bridge that gap. It doesn't hurt from time to time to send them a message and say, how's it going? Is there anything that I can do for you? Those little nudges will be appreciated by your employees. It will make them also feel that, hey, someone's looking out for my interest.
Yeah.
And it can be an opening for them to finally speak up if something is wrong with their line of work.
Yeah. Okay, it's 2022, a new year. Let's talk about the trends. What are the trends on the job market now?
What we've seen with a lot of recruiters in HR, a lot of them are no longer just looking at positions every time they hire people. So for example, we usually hire based on if you want an auditor, if you want, let's say, a marketing or a salesperson, you have to look at their past experiences and say, was this person a sales folk before or a marketing person before? We've noticed that that isn't anymore the trend. People are also looking at your experiences and skills. So even if you're not from marketing or sales, and let's say you happen to be from HR, but in your 5 years of experience in your past company, you had an opportunity to conduct marketing activities. That could be a plus that you might want to highlight in your resume, because a lot of recruiters today are not just looking at your position, they're also looking at your skill. A lot of recruiters are open to hiring people who may not have the full experience, but are flexible enough to navigate from one position to another. So I think that's something that a lot of companies are also realizing. Flexibility of skills is important for their employees.
Great insights. Thank you for that. Thank you for joining us tonight, Jonathan Yabut.